Well, hello, my wonderful groceries of the Maverick Nation. Sorry about that. I just had to activate my thermal suit, also known as my house shoes and a coat, but I like to call it my thermal suit because it helps with heating, not being cold as balls. So, yeah. Seeing as we're done with the whole if Izuku was evil, what if I actually had maybe two or three different ideas. I actually think I might actually add one of my ideas to this. Give myself even more damn work. Yeah, yeah. Masochist in the making here, guys. Masochist, or is it sadomasochism? I don't know. I guess I'll look it up later on, or maybe just ask someone who knows more about this shit than me. Uh, Anyways, seeing as now we need something to fill in the slot for the whole what if Izuku was evil, what if, seeing as we need something to fill that in, I decided, what about another reincarnation what if? Why the hell not? And instead of Ukiyoda, this time it will be Grimjow, because I'm not used to working with Grimjow and anything. Much less what ifs. So a whole entire what if revolving around Izuku being his reincarnation, or I don't even know that how the hell you would even freaking do this. I Okay. It's gonna be a challenge, but it's gonna be a welcome challenge. So the way I see this starting out is sort of I guess you could say, is it Hinduism or Buddhism that has the whole cycle of reincarnation thing? I guess like since Grimjow really didn't want to rule with Neliel and Tia, he really just wanted to go off on his own. I guess you could say eventually he did end up dying, cause you still don't live forever. You eventually die. Something has to happen to your soul. Eventually, Grimjow would end up dying. But before that, he would, somehow find himself, ending up in the human world, and he would meet a nice lady with a green ponytail and green eyes, and she would say that her name is Inko Midoriya, and that to not kill her because she has no idea who this man is. He has a freaking sword, and the whole face mask thing that he has going on, with all the sharp teeth and that crazed look in his eyes. Yeah, not really doing much wonders for calming her down. If you want to calm the lady down, then don't openly look intimidating, which is something that Grimjow was having a very hard time trying to not be intimidating, because how everything I just mentioned. Basically, he explains whenever they are in that Pantera is his Zanpakuto, or Zanpakuto sword. And basically, you know, it's kind of his thing. And he tries to explain everything the best he can. And basically, Inko doesn't really know what to think, but she's just well, do you have any, like, distant family or relatives, like, nearby that, like, to go to? Or that you know, so that I could, like, help you, like, maybe take you to them? Maybe, like, if you're lost, because you seem to be roaming around quite a bit. And, Grimjow, he'd just be like, relatives? And he'd just be thinking, actually. And then he would remember one of the memories that he had from before he was dead was of his father and mother. Now, he doesn't remember the name of his mother, but he does remember the name of his father, Shigaraki Yagi. And then she's just like, well, then how come your last name is Jaggerjack? Why is it not Yagi if your father is Shigaraki Yagi? And Grimjow was just like, well, considering how much of an asshole the dude was, why would I want to be associated with him in any way? And then Inko was like, oh, yeah, Shigaraki Yagi is also known as All for One, and All for One is the number one villain. And Grimjow was like, yeah, he cares more about the whole villain life than he would his own son. He never cared about me. And so I had to eventually end up go on my own. And I died due to exposure. And Inko was sort of like, basically, she just heard him confess that he died due to exposure. And so basically, she was like, how? And Grimjow was basically like, I wanted to be alone. I didn't want to see those looks that the people were giving me. So I climbed up as much as I could until I found the tallest mountain where no one else would follow me. And I just stayed there. No matter how hungry I got, no matter how lonely I got, I didn't want to see the looks, and I didn't want to hear my father's voice, and I didn't want to see my mother's face because of the way he treated her. So I just died with such destructive emotions. That's why my aspect of death is destruction. Because of all of this destructive emotions that were going through me before I died. And he's basically like, yeah, basically he just like all of the destructive emotions that were going through me before I died. That's probably why I'm the aspect of destruction. Like, that's my aspect of death. So, yeah. Not too pretty, is it? I'm literally the son of the number one villain, Shigaraki Yagi, also known as, like you said, All for One. And Inko was just like, well, what's your quirk? Or is Pantera your quirk? And Grimjow was just like, oh yeah, I heard about that. The thing. You talk about quirks a lot. Well, I guess you could say so, but then I have other abilities. So I wouldn't really call anything that I can do a quirk. So I really don't think I should be here anymore. And Inko's just like, nonsense. And then she just uses her telekinesis to drag him back in. And he's just like, shit, shit, shit. What the hell? What are you doing to me? And she's just like, it's my quirk, telekinesis. I'm an Esper. And Grimjow's just like, wait, you're an Esper? Your quirk is telekinesis? What the hell? He's like, what the hell? Basically, Grimjow would just be like, okay, what do you want? And she'd just be like, I want you to be able to be happy. Maybe if you stayed here, you'd be able to be happy instead of having to be sad and alone all the time. And Grimjow was just like, whatever. But he did end up staying with Inko. He ended up staying quite some time. And then eventually, one day, Grimjow was just, you know, doing his own thing, sharpening Pantera just in case anyone wanted to, try and jump out and, hurt him or his lady love, Inko. Yes, by this time they were actually engaged. Yeah, Grimjow had actually expressed his feelings for Inko, like that he didn't really know he could have those types of feelings. So yeah, by this time they were engaged plus married. Basically, he's just like basically it's just like Grimjaw's just sharpening Pantera, and Inko was just like Grimjow, Grimmy Jow. She would just give him the name Grimmy Jow, and Grimjow would just be like, "What is it, Inko dear?" He'd just be like, "What is it, Inko?" He would like no pleasantries needed. He would just be like, "What is it, Inko?" And then she would just be like, "It's it's wonderful. I just heard why I was having those pains." And Grimjow would be like, "Yeah, what about him?" "Well, Grimjow, you're going to get the chance to be better than your father ever was. You said about all those times where he would do those things to your mother. Well, you have the chance now to be a better father than he ever was." And basically, Grimjow would be like, "So wait, are you trying to tell me you're pregnant?" And she'd basically be like, "Yeah, that's the gist of it." And Grimjow's like, "So how deep into this are you?" And she'd just be like, "Well, I'm not really all that sure, but I did finally get the results back and they're all positive. So, yeah." And Grimjow would just be like, "Holy shit. Shit, shit, shit. I'm gonna be a dad. Damn it, I'm not ready for this." Grimjow would be like worried as all hell. Because he would want to be a good father. I mean, he would want to prove his dad wrong. He would want to prove All for One wrong. He would want to be a better dad. So, he would be like freaking out. And then eventually the day would come whenever the baby would be born, and it would have green hair and green eyes, just like its mother. And Grimjow really wouldn't mind, cause he would be like, he really wouldn't care, because it's their kid either way. But one thing he does seem to know is like the markings around the eyes, like the markings around Grimjaw's eyes, like the blue and green markings. He does have those. He does have those, like the eye markings. So that is one thing from Grimjow that he got, like as soon as he was born. And they decide, they're like, "Well, what are we gonna name him?" And like, Enko is trying to come up with a name. And Grimjow was just like, what about like something like Izuku, I think. And Inko would be like, "I was just about to think about that." Well, I guess great minds think alike. Yes, Izuku, do you like that? And, baby Izuku would just be like, Izuku, Izuku. And, Grimjow would just be like, he likes it. He likes his name. And, Grimjow would just be like, yeah, things are gonna be better. And actually, one day, whenever, like, it's just like a little Izuku, he's like 4.5, and, it's Inko, she's there, and Grimjow's there. He's 4.5, so he's like halfway to the age where he gets to do the whole quirk doctor test. And there's just this phone call, and Inko's making like some sort of lunch or brunch. So Grimjow picks up the phone, and he's like, "Who is it? This is Midoriya. This is the Midoriya residence." He really wouldn't, like the whole Jaggerjack thing. He really wouldn't want that to be a thing. So he would just say, "This is the Midoriya residence. This is the Midoriya residence. Who is it? Who the hell is it?" But he would still be blunt, Grimjow. You'd be like, "This is the Midoriya residence. Who the hell is it?" And then the person would just be like, "Oh, no one special. Just a little someone who's interested in something for you. Grimjow." And Grimjow would be like, he would just like whisper, he'd be like, "How do you know my name?" And basically the person would just be like, "Well, you see," and then he would just hear a voice, "My son, I've been waiting a long time for this. Unless you don't want, unless you want them to be harmed." Basically, if like, he'd basically be like, "If you don't want them to be harmed, then you will come, follow." And Grimjow would be like, "Where the hell to then?" And basically he would hear the voice and be like, basically, like, Grimjow would just be like, "Ah, damn it." And then, he would just, like, be trying to follow, and then, like, he would get knocked over the head. And whenever he would wake up, he would be like, "What the hell is this? Why can't I freaking move?" And then he would just hear someone say, "Well, that's just a result of the serum." And then he would hear a voice, now, Shigaraki. Be very patient. You must be patient with Grimjow. If he is to run away, then he is to be dealt with like a runaway. My son or not. Why, how is it that I never got to see my grandson? And Grimjow would just be like, "It's you, Shigaraki. I'm never going to call you that. Shigaraki, I know it's you. And to answer that question, I would never, ever let you go anywhere near my son." "Oh, is that so? Well then, I'm afraid that's going to cost you a little bit of life privileges. You see, I managed to come up with a machine It will allow me to extract your hollow essence. And seeing as your death and all, you will be nothing but a dead corpse once I'm done with you. Your death, in order to become a hollow, you'll basically be nothing but a dead corpse whenever I'm done with you. And Grimjow is like, the hell are you talking about? Then he just sees like this like giant needle machine, and it's basically like stabs into him, and he's like, "Ah, what the hell? The hell is this? It's something you're going to love." And then like Grimjow can just feel himself like getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and then he just passes the hell out. But he doesn't pass out. He actually ends up dead. And then like like Tomoda Shigaraki, like off one's underling, that Shigaraki, he's like, "Oh, what are we to do with the essence?" Well, that is why we needed a distraction. And Kirogiri's like, "Distraction made, she's no longer in the house." And they just warp into the house and like stab little tiny Izuku with like the needle thing, and like insert all of the little hollow juice inside of Izuku, and he just passes out. And so you know they would all like warp out like before Inko could come back, and Inko would be like, "Izuku!" And basically, whenever it was time for like the quirk doctor thing, like Izuku would have a quirk, they just wouldn't know what it was. Like, uh, like, uh, like they wouldn't really know what the quirk was. It would be like there's like energy manipulation in there, but there's also like an enhanced body thing, and he sort of doesn't really seem to be like controllable. He has like these urges, like this itch, this constant, like they don't even know really what it is. And every time Izuku tries to tell the doctors what it is, they're just like, "Oh, it's just a kid. He's just a kid. Don't listen to him. He's just a kid." And even though he's telling them what it is, they don't actually think he's being serious. And Inko would be like, "Well, I'll believe you." And, like, they're in the car, and basically she'd be like, "I'll believe you." And, what Izuku says is, "Destruction. All I want for some reason, whenever I have these urges, these sensations, destruction. I don't know of what or how, but it's just I." And then he just starts to shake uncontrollably, and like it's like he's having a freaking seizure, and like Inko is just like having to like calm him down, and then they have like the rest of the ride home, and then when everyone figures out about like the whole quirk thing, like causing him to have like freaking like fits where he kind of like loses his mind a little, like a little bit more every time. Like Bakugo would be like, "Huh, so you really are a tough skin, aren't you?" And Izuku wouldn't really know what he means. And he'd be like, "You're rough and tough. You got that power. I know about your little quirk. I know what it is. Don't dare try to lie to me and act like you don't know what it is. That destruction urge you seem to have, it's just an urge to use that power. You want to use it. You just don't know. You never knew before that you wanted to use it. but now you do. Because I'm telling you, that has to be the reason why you're having those urges. I mean, come on. You and me. I'm not afraid. You think I'm afraid? I'm not afraid of anything. I'm gonna be the number one hero someday. And Izuku would be like the number one hero, and he would just be like, uh, I, I, and then he would just like run off, and Bakugo would be like, hey, what are you doing? And, he would run off somewhere like no one would know where he is. And basically, like, you know, Inko would find him, and she'd be like, what are you doing out here, like, so far away from home? And he would be like, Mother, I, I can't. Please, I'm too dangerous. What Kachan says is true. Then, then I'm dangerous to everyone. And Izuku is like Inko is just like, you don't need to listen to anything that any of them say. You're my son. And whenever she goes in to like, give him a hug, she just like shink, and she's just like, what? And she just feels like a warm liquid going down her, and she's just like, she like touches it, and she realizes it's red, and she's like, she just sees the sword and sees Izuku, and sees that Izuku's like panicking, like, what the shit? He just realized he had another one of those instances again where he wasn't able to control himself. He had just like that instance of wanting to destroy something. And it just so happened to be whenever his mother was trying to hug him, and he had the sword in his hand, he stabbed her right through with Pantera. And so basically, like he stabbed her right through the heart, so she's pretty much dead already. And so, like, the sword basically being soaked in her blood, it would awaken the sword's inner power. And so, he would basically, anytime he would, like, want, like, whenever he was able to, like, train his body to be able to handle the transformation, he would be able to go into the Resurrection Pantera. But he would have to, like, train his body for, like, the transformation. Otherwise, it would, like, tear him to pieces. And because of this whole entire incident, Izuku really doesn't hang out around people. Like, the only person he really, like, talks to, and talking, believe me, that's like a lot of emphasis on talking, is Ochako, because even, like, whenever he does talk, it's like very little response. Like very little like actual talking. He would talk, he just wouldn't say a lot. He This version of Izuku is not the talkative type. He is very reclusive. And the only friends he seems to have made over the years have been like feral cats. Since Grimjow and his Resurrection Pantera being like Panther or Panther King, I think. It's either Panther or Panther King, is what Pantera means. So like the feral cats, like the big cats, like the big feral cats, would be like the ones that he would like make friends with. And even the smaller cats that are really untamed, he would be all friendly with, and he would be like, they're the only ones who seem to understand me in Pantera. He would actually think of Pantera to be like, also be kind of like a person. I mean, considering it's stained with his own mother's blood, well, the blood isn't on it anymore, but he considers it to still be stained with her blood. Considering it's stained with someone's blood, he now considers Pantera to be just as much of a person as anyone else. And also sort of like a significant figure of what his mother meant to him, so he would always be so personal whenever he spoke about Pantera, or even spoke to Pantera, because the whole talking tears on Pakto thing. And he would get you know he would just get all defensive whenever someone would be all aggressive with him. He would get aggressive back, and the only person who would really understand this would be Bakugo, because you know Bakugo is aggressive to everyone. He's always angry. He's always pissed off at someone or something. So he would be the only one who would really be able to understand the fact about the anger issues that would develop from the way this version of Izuku, the way they live their life. And, it wouldn't really be until, he actually figured out where Kachan was going for, the hero school. He would know he would want to go to, the hero school, but, he would never, foresee, what was about to happen. Kachan would actually go in front of his face and be like, "Hey, loner." And, Izuku would be like, "What you call me?" And Kachan would be like, "Yeah, loner. That's what I called you. You're always alone with these stupid cats." And Izuku's like, "And you're always throwing rocks at the cats. Just be glad I don't claw your eyes out for doing that." And Bakugo's like, "A bunch of empty threats." And Izuku's like, "You wanna bet that those are empty threats, Kachan?" And Izuku would be like Kachan would be like, "Well, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and graduate, graduation day, and go to a hero school and all that, do that thing." And Izuku would be like, "You don't think that's what I'm doing? Just because I'm self-training myself doesn't mean I can't graduate from it." And, Kachan would be like, "The hell are you talking about?" And Aizawa would just pass them by, and he'd be like, "Oh, Izuku, nice seeing you here. Are you done with your test of graduation?" And Izuku would be like, "Yeah, here you go." And he would just have a paper, he would just hand it to Aizawa, and freaking Kachan would be like, "Wait, what? You know Aizawa? You know one of the pro heroes? You know Eraserhead?" And Izuku would be like, "Yeah, so what? Is it supposed to be a big deal?" "Oh wait, pro hero? That's supposed to be a big thing? Oh, wow. I guess maybe I should think this is more important, but right now I just want to be with my friends, okay? With my friends. So will you just let us sleep already?" And Kachan would just be like, "Well, seeing as we both graduated, where exactly are you going to go? At least I would like to know that." And, Izuku would just be an asshole about it, and he'd be like, "Fine, since you're not going to leave us alone, I'll go to UA so I can show you up." And that would just piss Baku. Actually, no, it wouldn't piss him off. He would actually kind of get a little bit of a, like a, I don't really know what you call it. Almost like I guess you could call it a euphoric feeling, like something of, intrigue. Like, he would get, interested, um, you know, this guy is different than everyone else. he really is different. He's nothing like anyone else. And he even wants to go to UA to spite me. Yeah, he is really something. Okay, buddy. Listen. If you're gonna go with UA too, then you better be warned. I'm not gonna go easy on you. And if we end up in the same class, well, then that will just even be more hell that you have to deal with. And Izuku will just be like, and like Bakugo would be like, he would know that he wasn't really sleeping, and basically he would like know that he wasn't really sleeping, and he would just be like, damn it, freaking Izuku, never mind. And he'd just be like, whatever. And it would end up that they would, take the UA entrance exam, and that it was true that he was going to UA, and that Aizawa was kind of like half-heartedly teaching him. So yeah, they would end up taking the entrance exam, and they would kind of form a little bit of a love-hate relationship. Him and Bakugo, Izuku and Bakugo would kind of form a little bit of like a love-hate relationship. Something like a, you know, like a friendly rivalry, I guess. Like sort of friendly, not friendly. I don't know. Like they wouldn't hate each other, but it would just be one of those things. You know, it's kind of like Grimjow whenever he realized that Ichigo actually had potential. It's kind of like that with like that whole thing, like Grimjow and Ichigo. I guess you could say like Bakugo's Ichigo in this situation. Actually, no. Like in this situation, technically, Bakugo would be Grimjow because he's just now realizing this guy's interesting. That's kind of what Grimjow was like going through his head. Ichigo's interesting, and Bakugo's thinking, Izuku's interesting. Like this Izuku is interesting. So yeah, it would kind of be that. They would be like one of them would be interested in the other, and the other really wouldn't give a damn. So yeah, I I think at the beginning I said this one was going to be longer, and there's a reason for that. Actually, there's several reasons for that, but if I were to go into those, this video would be like going on until the end of time. So yeah, the Dark Shadow Africa's out. Adausis, like a Alonzi and Adausis.